Hello, welcome to my video where I reveal that I'm not afraid to be the only person who thinks something. Somebody said to me yesterday, well, if I ever did a crime, I sure as hell want you defending me. And I was like, well, thank you very much. If you were Wendy Adelson, you sure wouldn't, because I'd be working all day to prove your fucking guilt. So this is a video where I am willing to be the only person on earth who will defend Hannah Gutierrez's innocence. Even Jason Bowles doesn't seem to care as much as I do. So these are my thoughts about why I believe that Hannah should be found not guilty. Not because I don't think that she has any culpability or responsibility in this situation, but for all the reasons I'm about to say. Enjoy the video. Good morning, my lovely peaches. Hello to bad lighting. I'm just walking back from the bus stop this morning, and I am still planning on completing that next chunk of Wendy Adelson police interview, transcribing and reading it and analyzing and reacting, and I want to do that. But I have been getting completely unexpectedly, I got hooked on the Rust Hannah Gutierrez-Reed trial. If you want the quick take, my ultimate reason is there are no standards, there are no industry standards, therefore you cannot hold somebody criminally responsible for standards that do not exist. If you want to take this tragedy and say, from this horrific tragedy, we are going to springboard new standards, new licensing, new classes, new permits required, new certifications, new standards of operating procedures, that every single production, whether you're an independent production or a mega production that has even one gun on set for even 1 minute, has to follow these legal requirements. All of these things, you want to take this case and make that true. But in my opinion, you cannot retroactively make something true that isn't true, because everything I've heard and learned about this case is there are no industry standards for even being an armourer. Therefore, you cannot hold her legally liable and responsible, as in go to jail because she failed, when there was nothing standard. What was the contract? What was she being held liable for in her contract? What did she understand the job to be? It's easy to look at something from the past and say, well, it shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's how it should be. But is that how it was? Is that how it was? I don't think it is. And so therefore, I vote not guilty. And this video is my long-winded explanations and reasonings. And if I was a juror in the deliberations room, I would be fighting in defense of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and this is the video of what I would say. So most people may probably not agree with me. That's okay. I'm not looking for a bunch of, well, this. I mean, I always say I'm open to comments and to questions and discussion, as long as it's not hateful, not insulting. Don't body shame her. Don't say, well, she needs to be put in her place and humbled, and you didn't like her purple hair, or the fact that she was wisecracking or had her leg up. Like, those are not things that put somebody in jail for involuntary manslaughter, in my opinion. Okay, and in my opinion, you cannot send somebody to jail for failing an industry standard that doesn't exist. You can take the failure and turn it into the beginning of why there should be an industry standard. But that's my thoughts, and there's more to come. I had no idea I was going to get hooked. So I want to just talk about my opinion, which seems to be the only one. So I've been watching the trial, and I truly had no opinion at first. because I didn't know enough. And I've been watching on Alita Legal Bites and Emily D. Baker, and I've been watching Peter Tragos, and I've been watching Runkle of the Bailey, and yesterday I watched, there's my sad little dead car. Yesterday I watched Boss Attorney Bree, who I love and I respect, and we had a very interesting and lively debate. A lively debate where she made it clear that she thinks Hannah should go to jail. She said she thinks everybody should go to jail. And her opinion, I mean, she had a lot of extremely valid points. I absolutely understand what she said, all of the things that she said. I think I'm gonna go inside. I really feel like being outside and talking about this right now. Though, let's see. All right, I came inside just to change my coat out. So keep talking briefly about why I think Hannah Gutierrez-Reed should be found not guilty. Not guilty of involuntary manslaughter. That's my vote. So, do I think that she failed to do her job? Yes, I do. Do I think that she was negligent? Yes, but. Now, this is the part that Bree and I disagreed on, and actually quite a few people in the various chats don't agree with me, and that's okay. That's what jury deliberations is for, you know, people who have different opinions. Now, I'm not in the jury, but I am the would-be jury, as Peter Tragos likes to say. So why do I think that, yes, she was negligent, however, she should be found not guilty? So my reasons for feeling that, well, ultimately I feel that she should not go to jail. I don't think it makes any justice whatsoever for her to go to jail. Boss Attorney Bree was saying, it's only 18 months, somebody died, somebody needs to go to jail. But I don't agree with that, because yes, somebody died. Yes, it should be addressed. Yes, things need to change. But from what I've seen on the stand, another analogy that I thought of that people didn't like was that saying she should have just quit. I feel is very akin to blaming a victim of abuse. And then when people say, well, if it was so bad, you should have just left. Oh, he was abusing you or she was abusing you? You should have left then. If it was so awful, why didn't you just walk away? Okay, and somebody said to me, I made that comment in one of the streams yesterday, and somebody said, she's not a victim. Well, I disagree. I think Hannah was a victim of a toxic, unsafe work environment, and she was doing what she could, in my opinion, to try to improve things. No, she wasn't free of mistakes. Yes, she was completely inexperienced and shouldn't have been in that role. But when an environment is toxic and not at all meeting the standards, I think it's illegal to say, well, you should have quit then. Well, you should have walked away then. Why is it illegal to say that? Because that's victim blaming. Because that's that circular reasoning I'm going to talk about. The logical fallacy. Well, if it was so bad, then you should have walked away. And the fact that you didn't walk away means that it wasn't that bad then. And it's your fault that you failed, even though every single thing around you that was supposed to provide you with what you needed failed. It's your fault. And I don't think that that should be the role of the law, to say every single part of this job that you were hired at was a failure, but we're going to hold you solely responsible. Okay, it's not solely because other people are getting charged, but you're the only one who's going to go to jail. And then, like Boston Attorney Bree said, well, then you should get a better lawyer. If Alec gets off because he has a better lawyer, that's on you. That's on you. And I think the law should protect people better than that. Does it? No. No, it doesn't. This doesn't change my opinion that holding Hannah accountable in a way where she goes to jail, I personally believe is a total miscarriage of justice. And it doesn't even get to the heart of the situation. What is needed is industry change, not sending some 24-year-old girl to jail because she got hired at the worst production of all time. Hannah was not the problem, but just part of an overall horrific production. Messy, unprofessional, no standards of safety, not enough time. So I've seen a lot of people saying, including Boss Attorney Bree, well, if it was so bad, she should have quit then. Well, my whole thing is, she maybe should have quit, but I don't believe that in a court of law, when you're working at a job, it's your livelihood, it's your career. This is how you support yourself. And on the job, they are failing to do what they're supposed to. They're not giving her. If you are hired by a job, there are reasonable legal requirements that job has to provide you with safety. Now, if she was at war or in an ER situation, I'd say, well, those are situations where there's an expectation of chaos and the job entails possible loss of life, trauma, PTSD, exposure to all kinds of horrific things, and that's part of the circumstance. However, I believe, yes, she was an armourer. Yes, she had a job that could mean somebody died. However, this was not a situation where there was any need. Oh, damn, now there's a bunch of people over there at the bus stop. This was not a situation where there was any requirement for there to be overly high, fast pace. There was no need to have so much pressure that someone wasn't able to do their job. Now, also people are saying she's the one who brought the bullet onto the set. That might very well be true. Maybe today's testimony, I'll say, well, I guess it was true. Today's supposed to be the closing arguments, but other reasons why. So I feel that the job was criminally negligent. And the argument that, well, she had a job to do, she should have done her job. Well, I do believe, yes, you have a job to do. You're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to be checking for safety. You're supposed to be checking inventory. You're supposed to be checking every bullet. However, so she was a part-time armourer. That was another point. Bree was insisting, like, she had it. She had the days. She asked for more days. She got more days. If she wanted more days, she could have got more days. Well, that's not what was actually testified to. First, she had maybe 8 days. Then she got 10. But what Pickles, what was her name? Something Pickles said, well, if she'd asked for more days, then I might have maybe approved them. Might have maybe. If she had requested more days, she might have maybe approved them. So it was not in any way a guarantee. Also, some people said she didn't ask for training, but she did. She wanted to train the kid, and she was told no. And then she tried to see if she could get the kid's parents or guardians to approve it. That doesn't tell me she didn't care. She was told no more training days. She said she never got to train the actors. the OSHA guy said that Hannah was the one who was concerned about safety. And then the argument was, well, why didn't she tell anybody? What do you mean? She told Seth when Sarah misfired the gun. She said she wanted to report it. And Seth told her, let it go, get over it. Sarah already reported it. So should she have just gone over her boss's head? Well, he said that he wasn't really her boss. Okay, and then other people are saying, well, she was the armourer. She should have locked up the guns. She should have walked away. She should have, Okay, theoretically, yes, the armourer is supposed to have that kind of power. But just because somebody's theoretically supposed to have a certain amount of power does not mean that in practice she actually has that power. And again, boss attorney Bree was saying, she said she's assertive and she doesn't mind telling people what to do. So, okay, well, what somebody says they're able to do and then what they actually do in a high-powered situation with Alec Baldwin, a very wealthy, very famous, I would say powerful actor who's also the producer and the star, telling her otherwise. Yeah, sure, she could have locked it all up and left. Okay, and then, like boss attorney Bree said, then she wouldn't be liable right now. But I genuinely don't believe that in a court of law that is a reasonable answer. It's so loud. If I'm hired to do a job and it's my job to make sure everything is safe, and that includes inventorying everything that's there, having the time to train everyone that needs to be trained, given the authority that I need to actually run what I'm supposed to run, have the respect that I'm supposed to have to do the job, and have the maturity to do the job. So a lot of other people also said, well, she shouldn't have accepted the job if she wasn't capable. But where is the responsibility on an employer who ultimately it's their responsibility? It's management's job to make sure that the people that they hire are qualified and that the people that they hire have the resources that they need, the hours that they need. Like some people in the comments are saying, she had all morning. Well, just because she had all morning doesn't mean that she was being paid for that time. So, I'd love to see all of y'all commenting about, well, she just had one job to do. It doesn't matter who failed around her. Like the amount of people who are saying it doesn't matter who else failed around her, when the ones who all failed around her are the ones who are supposed to provide her with the safety standards, the time that she needed to do the checks. And then people are like, well, she's the armorer. She's the one who's supposed to do it all. It's like, do you guys not understand nuance? Okay, she was the armorer. She was the only one. There was a movie set that had dozens and dozens of real guns, and the production should be held legally liable for having not provided enough staff to do the job. So, there were a lot of crazy kind of metaphors, but one metaphor I can think of is if you're an ER doctor and you are in a very high stakes situation, but yet you don't have the proper equipment, you don't have enough staff, you don't have trained staff, you don't have enough staff, and the staff that you do have, they only did it like one time before, and they're fucking up, and their boss is covering for them, and it's pure chaos, and you're trying to do what you need to do, and you reach for the wrong thing and somebody dies. Yes, there should be liability there. However, to to me, the idea that somebody should go to jail even for just 18 months because she worked at at a job that failed so thoroughly. This is what I was trying to say. The logical fallacy of circular reasoning. Well, they failed, but she failed. She didn't do her job. She failed to do her job. It's her fault. This idea that, everybody around her failed. There was no type of inventory control. There was no safety standards. There was no specific place where things were locked up all the time. And she's supposed to do it, but yet the person who's kind of her boss, the two people who are kind of her bosses, are setting the standard of protocol, the standard of procedure. And again, who was her boss? Was Alec Baldwin her boss? Was David Halls her boss? Was Joel Souza her boss? Was Seth Kinney her boss? Was Danielle Pickles her boss? Was Sarah Zachary her boss? So a lot of people are also saying it's the armourer's job to be the last stop, to be the ultimate control, to have the ultimate say, to have the ultimate power, to be able to lock up the guns and take them away, to be able to say, Alec Baldwin, you stop right there. You give me that gun and you are not allowed to have it anymore. To say, cut and halt production, and to shut down the entire set, basically, of running. That's what I'm getting, that a lot of people are commenting that she was supposed to have this type of control over production, over the actors, over the guns. She's the armorer. Okay, but to just say that that's what was supposed to be the case, and that's what she should have done, and that's what they should have known, and that's how it should have all went down and stuff, that's fine and dandy. You can say that all you want to, but at the same time, she was brought on by Seth Kinney, who also brought in Sarah Zachary, and she thought Sarah Zachary was her boss, and she thought Seth was her boss, and they were telling her what to do, what not to do. She thought Danielle Pickles was her boss. I think that's her name. She thought that David Halls was her boss. She thought Joel Souza was her boss. She thought Alec Baldwin was her boss. She thought that they were more powerful and had more authority and could tell her what to do. Could tell her, leave because of COVID. Give me the guns, go. And she didn't say, oh, hell no, give me the guns. I'm locking it up and you can't produce this movie because you won't. Should she have done that? Maybe. Should she be held liable in a court of law and sent to jail? Because, in fact, all those people were acting as her boss and they technically were her boss and she had no power. Like the OSHA guy said, Hannah was not management. Hannah technically had no power. Hannah was an employee. Hannah was supposed to be provided with the safe place to put her guns, the time she needed, and the authority. So you keyboard warriors, the internet people out there, and maybe the actual jurors and lawyers. And I'm, like I said, I'm probably the only one, and that's okay. I have my opinion and I'm sharing it, and it's unpopular and it's probably wrong. But I really feel that it's one thing to say, well, this is what the definition is. Although, at the same time that people are saying, that was the job. But yet this is a job that has literally no certification required, no job required, no standards, no industry standards. There's there's no standard operating procedure, no qualifications that are prerequisite. So how can you say, well, that's the job? How can it be true that there's no qualifications, there's no standards, there's no certification or classes or anything that this person has to have under their belt, but yet at the same time you can insist that that's the way it's supposed to be, that's the way it always is? This job that has no standards, this job that has no classes required, no permits required, nothing, no licensing, but yet you're going to send somebody to jail because they didn't do the job the way it's supposed to be done? Even though there's no way that it's supposed to be done except the way that they tell them to do it on a case-by-case basis. And she's supposed to have the authority to shut down production, but yet there's no standard. So which is it? That's what I'm talking about. You're wiping your fucking ass with your I don't know. I'm not understanding it. It's like I see a collective anger at one person for the failure of an entire system that she was a cog in the wheel of, and to think that it should somehow fall on her shoulders with such an imbalance of all the other parts of this moving thing. I feel that it's a serious miscarriage of justice, in my opinion. And then boss attorney Bree even said, you know, if she could theoretically get probation, but she said, for all this work and then just to have her in probation, that seems like a waste. It's like, jail time is not a reward. You know, like someone else was saying in the comments, oh, she needs to be humbled. They need to send her, that girl needs to be humbled, send her to prison? Like the level of cruelty, like I get it. I made a joke that a couple people got mad about because I was like talking about that redheaded corporal, what's her name? I don't know. I can't stand her face. I don't like her. I don't like her overinflated lips. I said she looked like she got sucker punched like she needs to be. And somebody got real pissed about that. You're advocating violence. Like, I'm really not. I'm a nonviolent person, and I'm vegan, and I have a vow of nonviolence. And, you know, somebody else said, well, would you have walked off? Honey, I would never be near guns. I don't like guns. I don't want to have anything to do with guns. That's why I had no interest in this case. I don't like Westerns. I'm not a big Alec Baldwin fan. I had nothing to draw me in. Quick draw. Until I started to watch it, and I was like, this is some fascinating shit. And that's how I got pulled into the case. And, you know, I am anti-gun, but I'm not somebody who thinks that cops should have guns, but, you know, civilians shouldn't. I feel like it should be no guns, or, you know, or I guess not the way it is now. I don't know. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about that. Pro-gun, anti-gun. I used to be very anti-gun, but then I heard some people say some things that made me look at it differently. And ultimately, I think that there should be laws, there should be licensing, there should be regulations, there should be safety requirements, there should be all kinds of things that are not in place around guns. But I feel like people are talking out of both sides of their ass on this, because there's too much, you know, well, this should be, but therefore, and therefore. And it's like, I feel like this is an Excel spreadsheet when you're trying to put in a formula, and it's like circular formula will not work. And that's why my brain keeps giving like error, 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 because you want to find this person guilty. But to me, there's too many errors in the formula. There's just too much shit flying around in this monkey cage to walk out and say it's her, because shoulda, coulda, woulda, what's supposed to be. How can you say something is supposed to be something when there's no freaking standard? And I do think that she was neglectful. I don't think she did the best job. I don't think she was professional. I don't think she was experienced. I don't believe that. But at the same time, I also believe that the people who were producing the movie, the people who hired her, the people who were in charge of determining, do we need a part-time armourer only? One part-time armourer? Or do we need 3 full-time armourers and 3 part-time armourers? Like, you get a job, it's a life and death risk. I'm not saying that she did perfect, and I do think if she had been more mature and more experienced, then maybe she would have said, well, I'm locking everything up. Maybe she would have locked everything up, and then they would have said, well, you're fired. Like, that was a scenario that boss, Attorney Bree, said, well, if she had taken all the guns away, then they fired her, then she wouldn't have the liability. But that also fails to bring it back to the original thing I said. That's her livelihood. The idea that someone can just walk off of a job, can just defy their boss, they can just quit. They don't have bills to pay. They don't have anything that they need financially to take care of. Oh yeah, just quit your job. Your job is unsafe. The reason I'm saying just quit is, I don't believe a legal argument, is because most people work because they need to. Finding a job is not easy. Defying your boss is not easy. If you have a job and you're supposed to be doing whatever, and you don't do it and you walk out or you get fired, and then now what? Now there's a lot of people shit-talking you in the industry? Now maybe you get blacklisted because you're not doing what the producers want you to do? Like, yes, I understand that if she had been more mature, if she had been more experienced, then she would have done those things maybe. But I genuinely believe an employer is required by law to provide a place, a work environment where someone is not forced to quit. And I don't think you should have quit holds up in court as some kind of absolution. I'm saying she failed because they failed. That it was impossible for her to do a good job because of the environment the job was. Time to go in. I do believe that employers are required by law to provide a safe environment, and the hours required, the equipment required. Just to pop in to say with the equipment, okay, so she's hired to provide the guns and the ammo. So what I'm talking about, the equipment that they should provide is a secure place to lock the guns up, okay? But if it was her job to provide the safe place to lock the guns up, then there should have been a contract that said Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is responsible for providing Rust Production with X guns, X ammo, and X secure place to store everything. Not an art cart that's open, but a secure cart where there are locks. It's a safe. So if she was required in the contract to provide Rust Production with that secure place to hold the guns, then that it should say that in the contract, or they should provide it. It should be clearly stated, we have guns that can kill people, and so therefore there should be a standard, and that should be in the contract. And where's the contract? Show me the contract that says Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was responsible for providing the place to put the guns that was stored and locked. Show me where it said in her contract that that was part of the employment. Or show me where it says that Rust was going to provide the safe place to store the guns. Nobody talked about it. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't decided on. Well, I don't think you can send her to jail for that then. A space to do it, the authority to do it. If you are supposed to have the authority to do XYZ and you need the time to do it and the space to do it, then something goes horribly wrong. Somebody dies. And to me, it's not just cut and dry like that either. She was the armourer. It was her job. Somebody died. Boom. That's how a lot of people are looking at it. She was the last stop. She should have checked. She didn't check. Guilty. And I believe that it's a lot more nuanced than that, because I believe they didn't prove who brought that bullet in. Those photos of Seth Kinney's place are absolutely disgusting. Hoarder level 5,000, dirty, dusty, boxes. You don't know what the hell's in there. Yeah, they said it's not, but yet they also had over a month to clear out whatever they wanted. Plus, right after the shooting, Sarah Zachary's on the phone with Seth Kinney, and she runs and throws out bullets into the garbage that nobody can ever find. Nobody knows what they are, because she threw them away and they're gone. Yes, she did tell that, and that is great. She's not being charged with evidence tampering. And then somebody said, well, but those weren't the guns. Those weren't the bullets. How do you know what bullets were in there? They're in the garbage. So you've got shady ass Seth, shady ass Sarah. You've got Alec, who's waving guns around saying, hurry, hurry, hurry. Shooting off rounds after he's told cut, waving the gun all over the place, not providing the time that is needed to train the people, yelling at Hannah, hurry, 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 on a video. Really? And that's the only time that he did that? I personally feel that when you hire someone to do a job and yet you fail them at every single point along the way, that's what I was saying, a circular reasoning. She should have done her job. That's all. She should have done her job. But she didn't have everything that she needed. She didn't have any of the things that she needed in place to do her job. Should she have had an art cart? No. But if she truly didn't know that, if she came up in this motherfucker with an art cart, production should have said, this is not the industry standard. This is not how we do things. And you're the armorer, you're in charge, but yet you shouldn't be doing this. You know, like, there is liability on an employer if you hire someone to do something and they are clearly not qualified, and you clearly are not giving them the resources that they need, and they clearly don't have the assistance that they need, then to turn around and say you failed to do your job when everything else around it is a failure. That's what I'm saying. It's a circular fallacy of logic, circular reasoning. Well, you should have done your job. But she wasn't provided with anything to make that possible. Well, you failed, it's your fault. No, it's their fault. Should she have some responsibility? Of course. I think she should have community service. I think she should be forced to take a lot of gun safety classes. I think that maybe there's a fine involved. And I think that that would be a way for her to be accountable and to have to pay some responsibility. That was another thing Bree kept saying. You can't put a corporation in jail. Okay, so how does it then turn around to be the fault of her? You can't put the Rust production in jail. You give Seth Kinney, he gets off. You give Sarah Zachary immunity. The other guy, David Hall's, okay, he pleaded guilty and he got unsupervised probation and he had to take a class. We don't know what's going to happen to Alex yet. But like somebody else asked me, oh, if they were harsher on those people, would that make me feel better? No, because I believe that Hannah was put in an impossible situation and that she had everything stacked against her. And in an ideal world, she would have said, you know what, fuck this job, fuck this production, fuck you, Alec Baldwin, fuck you, Seth Keeney, fuck you, Sarah Zachary, fuck you, Pickles Lady, I'm walking out. Okay, but to say that someone should quit their job and give up their livelihood and have no money to live, and that's what she's supposed to do, that she's required by law to stop having an income, to tell her bosses, no, you're wrong, fuck you, to lock up guns, and then what? Be a pariah in her industry? She didn't know that how it was going to go. That's my whole point. To say to somebody that you should be forced to quit your job and then give up your livelihood. Now you have no money. Now you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. Now you don't even know how you're going to eat or where you're going to sleep. But yet that's what you're supposed to do. I don't think that that's a legal position that employers can legally put their employees in. Hey, this job environment is so utterly
unsafe
and failing you in every single way that you cannot do your job right, but it's on you to quit. Your job environment is so unsafe that somebody died, but we're going to put your ass in jail because you didn't quit. If she gets found guilty, I'm going to be disheartened. I mean, I understand people are angry because someone is dead. Helena Hutchins, rest in peace. However, just because, like, that was something that I did get a bit of that vibe from what Bree was saying. Somebody's dead. Somebody needs to go to jail. Okay, but I don't really think that that's how the law works. That just because somebody is dead, somebody has to go to jail. And the person who needs to go to jail is the only person who didn't get immunity or who didn't get a deal, or maybe she got a deal but she turned it down because she's like, why should I go to jail? Why should I have this on my record when I was literally in a toxic, ridiculously, illegally neglectful work environment? Like, the work environment was criminally neglectful. And that's why someone got shot, in my opinion. And if I was on the jury, I'd be probably the only holdout. I actually think she will probably get found guilty. And, you know, I also think that drug charge is absolutely ridiculous. Do we not have any freaking standards? I feel that Jason Bowles, the defense attorney, dropped the ball. There are so many places where he could have pulled out receipts. He could have impeached witnesses. He could have drilled down on so many things. But I feel like he was like winning the case for Carrie Morrissey, who's the prosecutor. So I feel that if she had had better representation, that a lot more people would have more reasonable doubt about her guilt. I feel that, yes, she has some culpability, but to put her in jail, I feel is a miscarriage of justice. I don't even think, to be honest, well, I don't know. I have to see the trial for Alec. I'm on the fence about him, but, you know, I feel that I don't know. I feel that what really needs to happen is industry standards need to change. And there needs to be some required certification and qualification to be an armourer. And there should be minimal safety requirements, that there should be a full-time armourer at all times who's dedicated to the job. And there needs to be safety requirements, like all guns need to be locked up in such and such type of place. That's what I was saying before. If she had an art cart, They shouldn't have just side-eyed it or said, oh, she's doing a great job. That was another thing. Wasn't everybody saying she was doing such a great job? Oh, until they needed a scapegoat. Then all of a sudden, it's Hannah, it's Hannah, it's Hannah. Okay? Oh, they wanted Hannah fired. Why did they want to fire her? Was it really because she sucked at props? Or was it because she wanted to report Sarah for a misfire that Sarah supposedly reported, but Hannah wanted to report? So Hannah's told, it's already reported, let it go. She should have reported it anyway. Again, this is what I'm saying. When your job is failing you at every turn and then you fail, it's just, I mean, it's so insane to me. It's like, let's say your job was to be the floor, but you need the fucking walls. Okay, you need those walls and the foundation, the support of the structure to, I'm saying a second floor wall / ceiling. You need the structure to hold you up. And so you fucking fall through. You're the floor that you fall through and you kill somebody. But the fucking structural walls all around that, your boss, your job, your supervisors, the industry standards, all that stuff was supposed to have around you, caved in. So you caved in. And now they want to put you in jail? Even though every fucking beam of structure and standard around you failed you, but yet it's your fault. Is there some fault in there? Yes, but not enough to put her in jail, in my opinion. All right, so that's that. That's my opinion about it, and I'll be watching the rest today. Like I said, I watch on Legal Bites' channel. I watch on Emily D. Baker. I watch Peter Tragel's Lawyer You Know. I watch Boss Attorney Bree. I watch Natalie Lawyer Chick, although I'm not sure she's been covering Rust, actually. And yes, so those are my thoughts. And I hope that for Hannah's sake, that there is at least one person on the jury who, like, I feel like I'm more passionate, more passion, more energy, more passion, more energy. I have more passion and energy to defend Hannah than Bowles. But those are my thoughts. Yeah. So I am curious to see. I do have a feeling that she will be found guilty and she might go to jail for 18 months. As far as the evidence tampering charge, I find that to be absolutely ridiculous, with one lady saying she gave me a bag and I threw it in the garbage. They never tested it. It didn't have anything to do with the shooting. I feel like that's a garbage charge, but potentially she could get 18 months for both, and then that could be like 3 years in jail. But I hope if she's found guilty, she gets probation only. But what I'm really hoping is that enough of the jurors will see, yes, she did have some culpability, but the shit show of the production and the shady behavior of the people around her and the unclear roles and the extremely bossy Alec Baldwin and the art cart of mess that there's 3 people picking and taking and picking and taking. How are you supposed to say this one person is the one who did this when you've got many hands and no standards and nothing is locked up and they don't even have any experience or skills, and then you want to put one person in jail when all those motherfuckers are guilty? And do I think Hannah is guilty? Yes, but I also think the walls caved in on her, and it's like, how can you, it's like saying she's got shit all over her, but she's standing in a tiny little tunnel and every single person is throwing shit on her. Well, yeah, she's got shit on her. And I also feel like if Rust had safety standards, if there was another armorer on set and or she was full-time, if the people who hired her didn't say, hey, totally inexperienced person who only had one gig before, you're in charge of all this stuff, and we are not going to make sure that you actually are qualified, that you know what the fuck you're doing. Like saying we hired her to do the job and not verifying that she was qualified. Well, I think that the employer is liable for hiring an unqualified person and not having any safety standards and not enforcing any kind of standard of operating procedure. And then you're like, hey, totally inexperienced person who has absolutely no real power, you're in charge of everything, but we're going to create absolute chaos around you. And when the fucking ceiling caves in, we're going to blame you. I don't know. I really feel that anger because Helena Hutchins is dead is not a justification to put Hannah in jail. And saying she was supposed to have power. You're supposed to have power that you don't have, so therefore you can't exercise power you don't have. And then to turn around and say, well, she should have quit her job. She should have given up her livelihood. She should have put herself in a really precarious position where not only did she not have a job, but she pissed off very important players in the industry where her next job would come from. So she's supposed to basically make herself a pariah, a poor, homeless pariah, and that's the only resource she has? Or go to jail. I'm hoping that the justice system sees how absolutely illegal it should be. And all of those people in the comments like, she didn't do her job, fuck her, she should go to jail. I'd like to see y'all in a job where you're not given what you need to do the job. You're told you have to work part-time. You're expected to what? Work for free? You're also given another job where you have to be away, and your bosses are pulling you like this and forcing all this pressure on you, and then you fuck up. Who fucked up? You fucked up? Seth fucked up? Seth was never there. Should he have been? I don't know. Sarah fucked up. Alec fucked up. David Hall's fucked up. Danielle Pickles fucked up. Hannah fucked up. Somebody died. Let's make it all Hannah's fault. She's the one who brought the bullet in. She's the one who loaded the bullet in the gun. She's the one who walked away. To me, reasonable doubt about who brought the bullet there. To me, did she load it into the gun? I don't know. I don't feel 100% sure about that. But even if that is the case, I feel, like everything I already just said, how can you hold her to a standard that didn't exist, that wasn't being held? How can you say she's the one who was supposed to do the thing that nobody told her she was supposed to do because there was no standard, so therefore we're going to make it up? Hindsight, we're going to say, well, the armorer should have done this, so therefore it was on her, not everybody else who also... The whole thing is flaming on fire, shit on fire, but you're going to isolate one person because in a perfect world, if things had gone the way they should have gone, if they had gone that way, then that's who we would blame. But that's not how it was. So you can't retroactively make somebody the authority of something that they were supposed to technically. But again, that's what I'm saying. There's no standard, therefore you can't hold her to a standard. There was no standard, so therefore you can't hold her to a standard that was never established. Show me the contract that said, this is your job, this is your responsibility. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, you are responsible for this. You are given this amount of hours to inventory. You're given this space to inventory your stuff safely and to store it. You're given the authority to do this. You're given all of these things. Show me where there were training days for Hannah to be with individual actors one-on-one for the amount of time that Hannah determined was the appropriate amount of time. Show me the training day logs. Show me where all of these standards of procedure and protocol and safety and how to do it, the standard operating procedure. Show me where all of those things were clearly delineated and demarcated and written out, and that it was understood by production. You didn't look at what does this person know how to do? You didn't verify? I feel that employers should have responsibility. I feel that employees should have responsibility. I feel that when there is a failure on a job, the employee is liable. However, if the circumstances are such that the work environment fails in every single sense of the word, and every quality check has failed, and there was no quality checks, and all of the things that should be standard are not standard, then how can one employee be held to a standard that is not literally legalized, is not standardized, it's not in the contract, it's not what was explicitly legally agreed upon? Okay, so she said it was my job in the police interview. That's true, but that doesn't take away the fact that where is the legal binding contract that says these are the standards that you must adhere to, protocol, legally binding? That's what I'm missing in this whole thing. All of these standards you've been given and you failed, show me that. Otherwise, this is a complete failure and one person's getting scapegoated. And I think there should be laws that protect people like Hannah, who kind of suck, who are inexperienced, and then get swallowed into a toxic work environment and something goes horribly wrong and then they get sent off to jail, but the corporations, they don't have to go to jail, and the wealthy people, they get better lawyers, they get a better deal, and that's just the way the system goes. No, I think that Hannah should be a poster child of, hey, I fucked up big time, but there should be standards in place that were not there. And maybe that's what she should advocate for. Maybe that's what she needs to start, the Hannah Gutierrez-Reed armourer standards of protocol. I don't know. Should she never be allowed to touch a gun again? And should she never work in the industry again? I don't know. Is that the answer? Or is it take this horrific tragedy and turn it into something that will help millions of people for decades to come through standardizing practices that should have been there to begin with? And then they want to put you in jail. I'd like to see if you still think
she had one job to do and she failed.
I disagree. Those are my thoughts. I got to get to work now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.